bonjour and hello. My name is Dusty Rhodes and you're very welcome to the Mimosa Matters Winning Against Cancer podcast, a short series where people around us or connected with Mimosa Matters share their stories. Today we're speaking with Marianne, who has literally lived and worked across the world, from her home in Norway right across to Asia and eventually settling in the south of France. Her story involves things that we ignore every single day, like niggly little gut feelings and sunscreen. Marianne starts off by telling me what brought her to France.
Mm-hmm. Well, a bit of a, I guess, slightly bit of a, on the whim, as most people. I was with my ex-husband, my then husband, living in London. He started in the yachting industry, and by chance somebody said, we are planning to open an office in south of France, and I said, that's us. So we just packed our few belongings and came here, and it's been going pretty well, since. So it was a bit of a chance. We've been living around the world. We met in Asia, lived in Asia for a while, and then went back to Europe, and ended up here and absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. So best of all worlds.
So why do you say it's the best of all? Because for somebody who has travelled extensively, and you've had cold, you've had the heat of Asia, you're here in the middle, you've had the fantastic food of Asia, you've got everything that you grew up with in Norway. Why do you say this here, France, is the best of all worlds?
For me personally, I think the location is amazing. The climate is amazing, because when you've had, quite a lot of winters, and then for quite a few years, I was 5 years in Asia, a lot of summers where we're either hot or it was hot and raining, and then it was hot again. Here you actually put on a jacket, and as a Norwegian, I will drive for a couple of hours and I have ski and I have snow and I have all the beauty of that. And then I can drive down here and lunch on the beach. So, yes, and also having lived far away for quite a few years, here you feel close to home. You can jump on a flight and within 3 hours be back with family and friends. And that is, I think, especially as you go older and you have kids, that is an important part, that you're not too far away.
And how did you find making friends when you arrived in France? Was it through the kids and the whole school network that you did it?
Oh, absolutely. A couple of people we met by chance, which turned up to be my best friend down here. And the rest was through, at that point, it was Cornerstone in Valoris, which was the, baby and toddler group. And so many people there are still amongst my very, very good friends. And after that, of course, through schools and networks and a lot of exercise and work, you make more. But I think my oldest friends, who are still some of my best friends, are from toddlers and baby groups.
And what do you think it is that actually makes friends, that connects you with people, that makes you kind of go, that makes it sticky?
Oh, it is definitely whoever makes you laugh and whoever shares your interest and whoever will have your back. And the people you find, I think also when you go through, kids changing schools and go to different places, you see who ends up being the ones that in a very busy life you ending up managing to stay in contact with. So, yes, I have a few very good, which I've been known for years and years now. And then you have all of your acquaintances and other friends. So, no, I've been very lucky. I have some very, very long-term good friends here.
I always measure it by there's something in my heart where when somebody asks me to do something I really don't want to do, and I go, but they're a mate. That's when I know, okay, you're in proper friend territory there. Of course, yes. the other thing, Marianne, that everybody says about the genius of living in France is the health system here. And of course, you've had your own brush with it as well. Tell me about the period of time that was leading up to your diagnosis with cancer. How did it happen?
Well, I have to kind of just say one thing first. When Mimosa very kindly, very sweetly approached me to do this podcast, I said, no, I'm not your person, because I kind of didn't go through cancer as a lot of other people who've had, serious diagnoses and very, harsh treatments For me, the cancer was, it was a cancerome. It was a skin cancer. It was not a melanoma. It was not, a very, what can you say, serious ones. For me, it was more the consequences, the fact that it wasn't caught in time. It ended up being a very, I would think, quite a big operation, which basically was, all over my face. So for me, it was more, as I say, I think a lot of cancers is kind of like an internal thing and you go through a lot of hardship. I didn't do that. For me, it was very much out there. I ended up having, 3 operations over 3 years, 48 stitches all around my face. But the actual cancer itself was never very, very dangerous as such. So when they proposed me, I said, no, I can't do that. I'm not the right person for this podcast because you feel a little bit like a kind of a fraud because you haven't gone through, all the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy that a lot of other people have done. And then they said to me, no, but it's because it is a slight different story and a very common story. And for me, the fact was that it wasn't picked up and it went longer and it took a long time. And therefore, a very small thing became a very big thing.
And this is it. And from listening to lots of the stories on this podcast, I wouldn't say that it's funny that you talk about how serious it is or how light it is. I would think that possibly your story is one of the most serious because you're talking about your whole face nearly had to come off the way you're describing it. Tell us more detail now in a few minutes. But the thing that everybody has in common is that at some stage you're facing a guy in a white coat and he's going, I've got some news and it ain't good. And it's like, and everybody kind of gets to that point and it's like, and it's nice looking back at it in hindsight and kind of, but on the day, did you feel that positive? Did you brush it off as lightly? Or when the doctor gave you a diagnosis, did you go, whoops?
Of course you do. I mean, it's that word, isn't it? The C word. As soon as somebody says that, you kind of go, what is that? But then immediately said, oh, it's only a cancerome. It's local. It's not dangerous. It can be very easily fixed. Small operation. And because he had basically removed this thing on my nose for more or less 4 years each year. And in the end, I said, are you sure this is not something méchant? And he went, oh, well, maybe we did a biopsy. I said, no, we never did. And then I think he obviously panicked and he referred me to, luckily, a very, very good surgeon. At that moment, when I went to see him, thinking that this was, going to be easy, it's going to be fine, and he explained the procedure, that's kind of when it hit me with a bit of a hammer in the head, basically. I'm very sorry, that's my doorbell, but I will leave that up to my kids. Because it was just a tiny little pore on the tip of my nose that kind of never healed. Typically one of those, it wasn't a mole, it wasn't anything. And 4 years running, once a year for 4 years, I went and they said, no, it's nothing. They just lasered it away. And in the end, I said, but this is getting a little bit bigger. It went a couple of millimeters maybe, then it almost closed, then it opened again. And then at that point, it had become 1.5 centimeters underneath the skin. So it was basically the entire tip of my nose. So then the procedure to remove that was, the first one he came with was saying that basically I needed to do skin transfers. I had to prepare the skin, take the skin from my forehead, basically it was 3 operations with 6 weeks apart, and then have that piece of skin attached to my nose while it was still basically hanging, live from my forehead to the tip of my nose. So basically, like he said in very French, you will walk around with a raw piece of meat in your face. So I think that was a point where I kind of broke down.
What I'm trying to think of is what was going through your head when you broke down, because that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were. So you're there and you're in your state. What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking, no, I'm not doing this. It's not happening. I don't want to do this. You just can't believe it, can you? But you think this was just a tiny little thing. And now I'm going to have, operations, and I'm going to walk around with a string of meat between my eyebrow and my nose for 6 weeks while you run around doing your school runs and your things, and you're just thinking, no, I just don't want to do it. And I remember very well, he had like a stack of compressors next to him. And I think I used the entire stack. I just sat there basically. I mean, he was very sweet, very no nonsense. I, of course, went and got a second opinion. He did the whole, diagram. He drew out everything, and he said, basically, this is the best operation to end up in the future having, the least visible result. And I went to another quite recognized dermatologist or surgeon in Cannes, who confirmed that was the right thing. And then I went back to this guy. He was up in IUFC, Institut Université Facicou, up in Nice Est. And yes, we kind of agreed to start to do it, just after Christmas, so that I could basically have Christmas without. But it was, I don't think I stopped crying for a good 48 hours or something like that. It was just kind of the thought of having all of these things. Yeah, well, basically walking around with a string of meat in my raw skin in my
Can I just clarify then that the idea when you say with the string of meat was that literally they were going to attach skin of your forehead to the skin on the front of your nose, but the idea being is that it would grow.
Exactly. It has to be kind of still alive. So basically the first operation, he would have removed the kind of skin on the tip of the nose, take a temporary graft from somewhere else. While they prep the skin, they put a little it's amazing the things they can do. It's absolutely incredible when you think about it. Well, they put something under your skin, kind of above your eyebrow, up to the temple. Because when you do skin grafts in the face, you have to use skin from the face. If not, it will have a different color. Yeah, you have to use it from the face, because as soon as you take it from another place of the body, you will basically, it will be a different color. It will never have the same color, so that will be, and then the second operation would then kind of to loosen this bit and attach that to the nose, but it still would have to be attached to kind of between your eyebrows so that the skin would kind of still be alive. And it would be that for 6 weeks. And then you could kind of snip that bit off.
Was there any danger to you mortally?
No. I mean, if I'd never done anything like that, I could maybe have kind of a bit of a rotten tip of my nose. But no, there was never any danger as such for it to, to spread.
Okay. Yeah. So how was it then when you went back home then to the family and you had to explain through lots of sobs, I can imagine, because you were still crying for 48 hours, what the doctor had explained to you? How did they take it?
Well, just the fact that I managed to drive home was quite a feat in itself, I think. But I can't remember if I explained it the first day. Obviously, I explained it to my husband at the time, about it. I can't remember if I told the kids or if I waited till the next day. To be completely honest as well, I also called my GP and she described me some Valium to take occasionally, just in case, just to be able to not, just to kind of not go into like a panic. And it took a few weeks talking to good friends to get to terms with it. But then in the end, when I ended up having the operation, he did something completely different. He went for a complete different approach to the operation. So I went in to have the operation and woke up with something completely different happened, which maybe after wasn't, I think is kind of given me more scars as such, but as an immediate thing was probably better. Because there was something they call, I think, the Munchausen approach or something, where they basically kind of open up between the eyebrows, around the nose. It's like kind of almost like a J along the nose and across. And they basically twist the whole skin around to kind of like cover up for what they've taken away, which made it very difficult to laugh for a very long time. Because each time I laughed, It stretched so badly. It was so painful. I remember so well sitting watching, was it 8 out of 10 cats doing Countdown, which is one of my, and it was something hilarious coming up. And I had to run out of the room because I was in agony thinking I was going to rip my skin open because we were laughing so hard. It's me and my son. So, yes. So I kind of woke up and they came in and explained that they had been able to do this instead. And I was happy with that. And it was basically 48 stitches from between the eyebrows all along the side of the nose, across the nose. And yes.
So tell me, how did you find the French health system to deal with as you were going through this?
Well, I must admit, I have had quite a few, both of me and my children, a few, times where we had to deal with it properly. And I think they are amazing. I mean, when you're there and then, I mean, everything is very efficient. Everything is very, correct. Everything is covered. I mean, it's, for me, the most amazing thing was afterwards, because I think, I mean, literally in the beginning, it looked like a dog had bit off my nose and they stitched it back on. It was not a very pretty sight. I mean, they constantly reassured me. But one thing he said to me, I remember from the first meeting, he said that whatever happened, we will continue to working with you until you will be as you were before. And he kind of promised me that. And I had in total 3 operations over 3 years where they basically just went in and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. And I think on cases like this, the French system are very concerned about your basically psychological well-being afterwards, because you could so easily have said, well, that's it. The cancer's gone. You're fine. And your nose will be a bit crooked and or look a bit, but, we've done our bit and the rest will be on you maybe privately to look after. But he went in and, I mean, literally to the last bit when they came in now, and that was this, I mean, they kept on having me in for 4 years because obviously it's not completely symmetrical, and they, giving me tiny bits of filler and Botox just around the, what they call the bunny lines on the nose, just to try and even out the symmetry for me to feel good about myself. And I think that is absolutely incredible. And I really don't know any other country who does that, free of charge, with amazing, amazing surgeons looking after you.
And how do you feel about yourself now? How do you feel with your face? Are you back to normal?
You know what? It's really not that bad. I mean, it's a couple of things, of course. I mean, I can still see quite a big scar coming across one of my nostrils. I mean, the main scar you can hardly even see. It's quite amazing. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's 95%, and I'm very pleased. I don't think about it. It doesn't really bother me. And like they say, it still will, get better and better and better, because it just takes a long time to heal. I mean, the last operation was only, I think now about a year and a half ago for the last operation I went in and did. Yeah. So yes, I am extremely impressed and pleased with, everything they did and how much they, bothered to actually think about what I was going to look like after.
You have explained everything very well for the process and your journey. But what I don't know is what caused it. What caused this annoying little spot at the end of your nose that became so troublesome?
You know what? I don't know. And I asked them. Because, I worked as a diving instructor in Asia. I was, a lot in the sun. I mean, I am a Norwegian. Our generation, we didn't really use sun cream. We kind of rather used, peanut butter, peanut oil. And we were trying, especially Norwegians, to desperately get a bit of a tan. But like they say, it's completely individual. I mean, I could have been sitting next to somebody who had done exactly the same thing and they wouldn't have got it. It's just, bad luck. But obviously, it could have been, the fact is that I have been, sitting on diving boats for days at the time out in the scorching sun, not being very careful, could maybe have been, factors to have helped, developing the carcinoma.
How has this experience changed you?
Well, obviously, I use sun cream every day. I do not leave the house without sun cream in my face. I am much more careful, I will never kind of, just lie in the sun and sunbake. I mean, I will be in the sun and swim and then I'll be underneath the umbrella, but I will have 30 on my face in the winter and 50 on my face in the summer. Obviously my children are, being harassed about putting cream on all the time. And not the least, I go for checkups annually, regularly. And I think if I ever were to have, any kind of thing like that, I will not accept, them kind of brushing it off. I would maybe insist on having biopsies or insist on, because when this happened at each year, I'm kind of like, but this is really weird, and they're like, oh, no, it's fine. It's nothing. It's just a little cyst. It's a little this, it's a little that. And, and then I said, but really, are you sure? And I think if you do have some kind of gut feeling that something might be wrong, you should listen to it and never kind of be afraid of, maybe taking a second opinion or go somewhere else.
I like it. If you have a good feeling, follow it. Marianne, thanks for sharing your story with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Our story today is brought to you by Mimosa Matters, the association of people from all over Europe who have chosen to base themselves on the French Riviera and are giving back to the local community which has embraced them. Find out more about the association and its work to fight cancer in the south of France at their website mimosamatters.org. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, thank you for listening and stay safe.